What's going on, everybody? My name is Curci, and Outlast 2 came out. Outlast 2 actually surprised me because they announced the game and then they were like, yeah, it'll be out in a few months. Then I forgot about it and then all of a sudden it was out and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna play this game now. Which I was actually really excited for because I really enjoyed the first Outlast, but I screwed myself. Because when that game came out, I was really, for lack of a better phrase, I was a scared little bitch. I wanted to watch people play it before I myself actually played it, and I screwed myself because I saw all the scares happen before I got to them. So I knew where all the jump scares were, I knew how to solve all the puzzles, I knew what the story was. So there wasn't much surprise when I played the first Outlast. Even when I played the DLC, I again watched somebody play it before I myself played it. And it was a game that I really enjoyed because it had a good balance of slower moments and faster moments, but it never lost that tension or that creepy side to it. Fast forward to Outlast 2, this was a game that I wanted to see nothing of. Never played the demo, never watched somebody play the demo. When the game started putting out more trailers, I was like, I'm not doing it. I wanted to be completely and utterly blind while going into Outlast 2. And I'm actually really glad that I did. However, is Outlast a good game? It's alright. What, did you expect me to come on here and say that Outlast 2 is better than the original? Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's not. In order for me to go into why I think Outlast 2 pales in comparison to the original, I kind of have to tell you why I love the original so much. See, the original had narrative, but it wasn't like at the forefront of what the game was trying to do. It was more like atmospheric. There were little notes that you could find throughout the area, and that will start to unravel the mystery a little bit more, because if you're just playing through the game and ignoring all of the documents and all the notes that you can find, you're probably not going to know what happened in that Mount Massive Asylum. You're probably just going through being like, I'm in here and I gotta go. Which is totally fine, because the thing that makes Outlast so good is the gameplay and the experiences that you have. Like I said before, the game had a good balance of slower moments and faster moments. None of them really kind of overrid the other. It just was a good balance. One of the first things that the game does is that it puts you in a basement, then it gives you an objective. You have to activate 2 generators, you have to throw a switch, and then you have to press a button, all while trying to avoid one enemy that is looking for you. Peeking over corners, trying to figure out where this guy is. And what makes Outlast also really good is its unpredictable AI. You have no idea if the enemy is going to turn left, right, go straight. You have no idea what he's going to do. Even if you reload a save, there's no guarantee that he's going to go the same way that he did before. It's what makes the original so good, because of the unpredictability. There are times where you'll turn a corner, complete the objective, turn back, and just, okay, I don't know where he is, and it's freaking me out that I don't know where he is. But it adds to the tension, and the music cues perfectly once you finally do meet your foe, where it's just like that. You immediately kind of have that initial jump, and then you're like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta find a place to hide. I just gotta get away from his wrath. And it happens a few times, and maybe the puzzles are a little bit more difficult here or a little bit more difficult here. Maybe you're trying to find just one thing. Maybe you're trying to find multiple things. But regardless, that slower paced stuff is very tense, and because it gave you an objective, you had to stay in that area. You couldn't just spawn in the area and then run all the way to the exit and then be like, all right, we're done. But Outlast 1 also had faster moments. There were moments where you were being chased, and those were really good. Those were more intense, knowing that your enemy was right behind you, and it just kind of makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up because you know that somebody's right there and just go out and grab you. But either way, it had a good balance of that slower moments and those faster moments. But Outlast 2, a little different. See, this game, you play as Blake Langerman. He's a cameraman and assistant to your wife, Lynn Langerman, who is this journalist. And you're investigating the mysterious circumstances that surround the death of this pregnant woman who was just kind of wandering around. So you go to investigate, and then bad shit happens, and now you're just stuck, and you gotta find your wife and get out. What I actually really like about this game is its atmosphere. The game looks a lot better than the original. I really think that it does a good job of creeping you out. There's a lot of really intense imagery. That shouldn't surprise you with Outlast, but there are moments in the game, like there's one portion in the game where there's like a bunch of sick people, and you just see them, they're all like decrepit looking, and they're all dirty, and some of them are just throwing up right in front of you. There's one guy that just barfs all over you. Like, that is unnerving to me. Like, I'm not about it. It was the more creepiest part, because there were these little guys I say little guys, but they're fully sized human beings that are just on the ground and just kind of like looking at you like that. But when you turn your back, they kind of go up on all fours and they crawl towards you, and then when you turn around, they like stop. I didn't realize it until a little bit later in the game when I was like,
wait. Oh, you crawl at me every time I turn around. I see your game.
I got creeped out and I started running away, and then more of them started coming out of the shadows, and it was like, hold up, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done. Some really awesome stuff in that game. Good execution of the creepy factor. But there are also the enemies that you encounter. A lot of them are really creepy and really imposing enemies. But like, once again, just like in the first Outlast, you're not a fighter. You can't fight back. But sometimes when a person grabs you, it's like, all right, well, jiggle that right stick. And you're just like, and it results in a push. But going back to this whole idea of balance between slower and faster moments, there were slow moments in Outlast 2, but I don't think that there were that many of them. Outlast 2 really didn't do a good execution of making it be balanced. I felt like I was running throughout the entire game, getting outright chased, or there was just like, yeah, I could be slower, I could stealth through and keep an eye out for where the enemy is, but I could also just run to the exit, which is right there, so I ran. I actually wasn't a fan of that, because I do like the tense chase scenes, especially when you like look behind you and the guy's like right there. I really got creeped out when I ran into like a crawl space and I was like, all right, I'm good. Then I turned around and the guy was crawling after me and I'm like, oh God, like go away. But again, I kind of lacked those slower moments, those ones that kind of give you an objective. Yeah, there might have been like one or two that were like, yeah, find a key or find a rope or whatever. But those items weren't hard to find. And I kind of just found them and I was like, all right, I guess we're leaving now. And even after you reload a save, some of the enemies do have some predictable movements in the sense of like, okay, I'm going to start, like I died a lot in this game too, which is another thing. Like I got really annoyed because there were certain sections in the game where the developers really wanted you to go a specific route. I didn't like that because where they wanted me to go wasn't so blatantly obvious. Like I get the game hits me maybe once, twice, but if I die like 4, 5, 6, 7 times, that's, oh, come on guys, what are you doing? Like, it's not Dark Souls, this is Outlast. Like I expect to die, but don't kill me when I'm just trying to, like, I don't know where to go. I mean, once I found it, I kind of felt stupid, but either way, I was just like, I'm annoyed. And it wasn't the only time that it happened. It happened later in the game, twice. But even some of the enemies, when you spawn in, a lot of them are like, all right, he's going to be there, and then he's going to turn right. And then after he turns right, we're not really sure where his movements are going to go, but I know that I can get around him if I just hang to the left because I know he's going to go right. I didn't like that. I didn't like knowing what my enemy was going to do because part of what makes Outlast is not knowing where your enemy is. But the game also has another mechanic, which is a microphone, so you can kind of hear enemies through walls or kind of detect where they are. And I started using it a lot early on, but it really wasn't giving me a whole lot of benefit. In fact, when I found out about it at first, I was like, that might diffuse a lot of the tenseness that this game is supposed to have. Part of the horror that I love about the original is in the moments where I don't know where my enemy is. But if I had the microphone, I'm like, where is he? Oh, okay, he's in that general direction. Granted, you don't know exactly where he is, but you know that the enemy is somewhere over there, which was fine because there were a lot of times where I was hiding and I was using the microphone. Okay, I'm gonna wait for this to go away and then I know I'm free to step out of this locker. So the game didn't have a very good balance of slower moments with faster, and even with the slower moments, the game was just not all that well executed. Some of the AI wasn't as good as they are in the original, and also it was kind of frustrating. Yeah, for the most part, I really wasn't a huge fan of this game. That's not to say that there weren't excellent things about this game. The story, see now the story is like another complaint that I have, because one thing about the story is that I was super intrigued early on, and there were a lot of questions that started rising up, like, what's this cult? Why do they want Lynn? Who's these guys? What's that light? There were a bunch of questions that started rising up, and I gotta be honest, even after looking at a lot of the documents and reading them word for word, not all of them get answered, which actually also annoys me because, like, don't end a game with a question mark. The original Outlast ended. That story, it finished. And while there were still questions that had to get answered, it had its definitive ending. But Outlast 2 kind of lacks that. There are still questions that rise up here and there. And in fact, I think the overall execution of the story, not only did it not end well, but I was more interested in a completely different story that wasn't exactly the main focus of what Outlast was trying to do. See, occasionally throughout the game, it flashes you back to a high school that you grew up in. See, when you were a kid, Lynn was also your friend, and then there was another girl, Jessica. And Jessica, this is not exactly a spoiler because they kind of reveal it really early, but Jessica kills herself. But there is a mystery surrounding her suicide, and as you flash back to the school, you're starting to unravel that mystery, and there's a lot of really creepy things in that school, a lot of really creepy imagery, and a creepy enemy that pursues you. Like, you'll be walking around, and then you'll see a shadow move behind you. When you turn around, there's no shadow. It just did a great job with delivering on the horror element, and it was awesome. And I was more interested in the story surrounding Jessica's suicide than saving my own wife. Yeah, of course I wanted to save my wife, but I was more interested in what was surrounding the story of Jessica, and I was heartbroken by the fact that I couldn't save her. And it almost made me think that maybe Outlast 2 should have been entirely the school. I feel almost that in the writing room for Outlast 2, there were two ideas. There was the school idea, and then there was the rural desert Arizona idea, and they were like, why don't we just do both? It felt that, like, obviously they put more effort into one of those two stories, and the other one just was like, well, we'll finish the rest of it in DLC, and that actually kind of pisses me off. Give me a definitive ending and then expand on it with the DLC. Like exactly what Outlast 1 did. I don't know, I feel like I'm shitting on this game a lot. I actually really enjoyed this game. I had fun while I was there, but there were little tweaks here and there that kind of pulled me out of the experience. So I guess in closing, the game was a little frustrating at times. I was a little confused with the main story of the game and more interested in the little side story that it was telling. It had good moments with good horror, and there were really intense chase sequences and really unnerving moments. And if that's what you're looking for, great, go for it. But again, the frustrating stuff happened, and I was a little disappointed that there weren't slower, like the game never stops to take a breath, and that annoyed me a little bit. Maybe not so much annoyed as much as it disappointed me, because I was really looking forward to those slower moments, because that's what I love about the original, and then they weren't there, and I don't know. So yeah, Outlast 2, it's a game. It's alright. It's good. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.